Inge Geerdens. We have the great honor to have you with us. Entrepreneur of international level. You were in 2006 Female Entrepreneur of the Year. You are a keynote speaker and a mom, I heard. We are very happy you're here to share your experiences with us on managing teams in agility. Then we also have Ebrahim Vadachia. After the training of his family business to systemic economy in 2014, he applied these principles with a fantastic success in Durban in South Africa. He was a vector for connecting people, companies, public services, NGOs, etc., all without calculating his efforts and time. I also heard he exposed himself. He applied the systemic principles to the city of Durban, which is quite a dangerous city, but he'll tell us more about that later. So do we have a... he's coming, okay. With the COVID and through social media, we have witnessed that there was... Hi, Ebrahim. Can you hear us? We can't hear you. I think you have to put on your microphone.
What? Yeah, I was just having some problem connecting. Good afternoon again. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for being with us. So I introduced you shortly before, so now I'm going to jump into the so we don't lose too much time. So we've seen that with COVID and through social media, we have witnessed a massive decline in psychological health, especially amongst the youth. Mental and psychological distress are actually breaking historical records. It's, I think, about over 50% of the population now that suffers of these mental and psychological issues. To be honest, this figure still kind of shocks me today. I mean, it's half of the population. So in my surroundings, I can also feel and see how people are, for some, very unhappy in general, and sometimes in their jobs. They quit their jobs. They don't want to start working at all because they can't seem to be finding any sense in the jobs that are offered to them. And some others are really struggling in just finding their way and finding their path because they're trying to make sense in a world where they can't really find more sense anymore. So actually facing the COVID crisis shows how social unrest and uncertainty can lead to these disastrous emergency solutions that also have led to the psychological distress of today. And with the ongoing climate crisis and societal crisis, actually, we could face a lot worse. So with a generation that is kind of resisting change for some, and a younger generation that feels hopeless and to some extent depressed, how will we be able to deploy new thinking and deep mutation with these people all together? I don't know who would like to start.
Well, I'll say ladies first.
That's easy.
That's an easy one.
Yes.
Okay. I don't think I have any direct answer to your wide question, but I do think at this moment what I look at, I have 3 kids. They're all 3 at university, so they have been online following their courses for the past year and a half, doing all the exams online, so I can see how they suffer. For my company, actually, I was glad, and this is maybe a very, very strange intro, but I was happy with COVID because finally it gave me what I was looking for as a female boss for years. I never wanted my people to go to the office and be in traffic jams. I always wanted them to have a good balance in life and a quality life, but I never managed to enroll this because people kind of stressed each other to come to the office, to keep on having face-to-face meetings with hours of drive. And then there was COVID, and then we had to. And after 1.5 years, the company is much more efficient. People are much calmer, and we have much better interaction amongst each other than we had ever before. But for me, it felt like I kind of needed this to enroll things the way I have always wanted it to be. As being a mother myself of 3, there's something with kids that, you can't stop them. You have to be there at certain special times, and there's nothing that you can switch them off for a couple of hours. So it's just part of life. So I think we have to embrace both the work and the economy and the family together. I can say much more, but Ebrahim, maybe.
Well, thank you so much for that, Inge. Yeah, it is true. I think nobody's lives are going to be the same after the advent of COVID. It has had a devastating impact on us here in South Africa, so much so that a lot of the ordinary men in the street, if you might call it that, the small and medium enterprises, businesses, have really suffered the most. And whilst it is advantageous, as you said, not to be working at the physical office per se, that has its advantages and disadvantages, because being of the old school, having a face-to-face, person-to-person meeting, one can learn so much more, the body language, the nuances, and being in the presence of that person. But for the sake of expediency, yes, the technology is there, so I think we should embrace the technology and use it with maximum benefit. Insofar as where we are going right now, there are many serious challenges, and I think that we should always recall and remember that we are all interconnected with the earth, with God, with our fellow human beings, and with everything that goes around us, including our everyday lives and our families, and of course our colleagues, and the economy itself. Our economy has suffered very, very seriously. The unemployment that was historically around 48 or more percent has even gone higher than that, into the high 50s, I would think. There's a lot of social unrest and things like that we are dealing with, and unfortunately, there are no quick answers. And as much as we can try from our perspective to try and set the record straight or put things right, it seems that there is an orchestrated campaign, and a lot has to do with, of course, the political drivers running down from the head of the country, going to the departments. And I frequently ask the question when I'm meeting with ministers and people like that: is it government policy to cause so much of chaos in the country that it becomes ungovernable? Or is it just something that you don't have the wherewithal or the systems or the ability to put right? So this is what we are grappling with right now, Inge, and I'm hoping that by allying and associating with more people who feel that yes, there is something dreadfully wrong with the world as we see it every day, and of course the people, I'll call it the powers that be, and the agenda that they are pushing out, it's not necessarily something that I subscribe to. Yes, whilst there's good in it, there's a lot of, room for it to go in the other direction, where it puts us in a greater situation or depth insofar as the advancement of society goes, and it will be something that is going to be causing more problems, suppressing the individual spirit, and generally causing more mayhem in society itself. So I'm hoping that we can work together and find new ways to find a new way out of this, because from one day to the next, one never knows when it's going to end. Right now we are in the middle of the so-called third wave, and they're talking about shutting down schools again and all sorts of stuff, and it is very disappointing, rather, really, because another year is going to be wasted, and that is something we can ill afford.
Do you, Ebrahim, do you have maybe examples about what's happening in Durban, for example, because you have faced many crises before. The conditions there are probably different than we have here. What can we maybe learn from your situation, or how it is going on back there?
Well, to be quite honest with you, the situation that we are facing currently is desperate in more ways than one. It seems that there is a lack of political will to do what's right by the country, by the people, and to get the system established to make a best of a bad situation, if you might call it that. And at times like this, you need proper leaders, you need leadership, you need statesmen. You don't need people that are looking for the next municipal or other local election, which is coming up in another few months' time. And I think this is also compounding the problem, where we have factionalism, different parties vying for power, lots of whom are involved in criminal or other enterprises, and the whole system seems to be in gridlock, where if I'm from one party and I suggest something and Inge's in the opposite camp, she's going to do everything to stop it. So it's a question of one step forward, two steps back, and this is the problem we face. So having knocked on many doors, having spoken to many of the people that control the levers of power in local government, including law enforcement agencies, it's a very big ask. It's very tough for us, and what we have found, that the only degree of solace that we can find, or find some sort of cooperation or people who feel the same way we do, is by finding other like-minded non-profits, NGOs, and trying to coordinate, cooperate, and collaborate with them, and because we share a same vision. Right now, what I can tell you, apart from unemployment, which is really causing a lot of problems, there is the scourge of crime. It's reached unprecedented levels. And just to give you an indication, I get on my phone, I'm on a whole lot of groups and everything pertaining to crime. So whenever an incident happens, it comes straight into my phone. And I was shocked just this morning, even though I've seen so much happening in front of my eyes, is that they shot a principal in school just this morning on the school premises. Now, if you don't have the means of staying alive, if you cannot find a meaningful job to earn money to support yourself and your family, you're going to resort to crime, and this is where it's going. And to make matters worse, the Minister of Police is now wanting to introduce an amendment to the gun control bill to say that you cannot use your weapon in self-defense. Now, I find that totally idiotic, especially given in the situation where the police are so corrupt and they cannot protect society at large. We are in a terrible situation, and if this is not addressed rather quickly and rather competently and decisively, this country has a very real chance of descending further into chaos and anarchy, and if not, then even civil war at some stage. This is where it's going, and I'm not exaggerating, I'm not overstating the status quo here, because I live and work outside there and I know exactly what goes on.
Okay, thank you for this testimony. How do you think then, because you talked a lot about collaboration, about allying, associating, and finding people that share the same vision to maybe feel empowered and feel less alone, actually, and give ourselves more power to mobilize. How do you think we can foster collaboration in these times where we're actually quite separated from each other? Well, it's getting better, but still, how can we, in a general way, foster this collaboration?
Well, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And the thing is, it's all going to be determined by people like ourselves. That irrespective of what the physical or social or other circumstances are out there, we still got to go out there. We still got to find those people, those organizations who think like us and who share the same sentiments as us, insofar as the values that they want to share, the legacy they want to leave for their children and the generations to come. And in that regard, I must say, being the chair of the Urban Improvement Precinct Company, it has given me the platform. It has given me the ability to gather like-minded people around us, and that is the only way it's going to work. It's by sharing, caring, and generally being your brother's keeper. That is something we all used to live with in previous generations, where even if we were living in a single dwelling, you'll get as many as 3 or 4 different families sharing that dwelling, and pulling together just to make sure that they could survive. But with the modern nuclear family, there's just me and my spouse maybe, and a child, if any, and it's fashionable to stay alone. But I can see that turning around again, simply because of the fact that necessity is going to drive that way. The safety in numbers firstly. Secondly, I'm sure that maybe more people living under the same roof can share resources, share knowledge, share earning, and keep that unit safe, and sort of grow that circle of influence, that circle of excellence, and spread that around. What I'm saying and what I'm doing right now with all the people that collaborate with us, we take people from different fields, different sectors of business, different levels and strata of society, of course, but all sharing the same ideals of wanting to do things better, doing things differently, because they know in their heart of hearts that something out there is not quite right, but they feel powerless. And this is where there's strength in numbers. Unity is strength, they say, and we've got to bring them close together. And I've even forged links with the local Chamber of Commerce. That one, I am a member of the Safety and Justice Forum there. There's also a secondary one that we've just joined recently now, and that is sort of multiplying our reach and our ability to communicate and leverage the strength of the numbers quite phenomenally. And this, I think, is where we are going to be able to do things, by not waiting for government as such, because the politicians are just there for a period of time. They are looking to get re-elected. If they get re-elected, it'll be same old all over again. If they don't get re-elected, then there's somebody else coming in, and he's going to start the same old nonsense again, looking out for his own kind, his own people, his own pockets. And generally, whatever happens to society at large, the people that voted in is of secondary, if any, importance to him. So in a nutshell, I would say it is us that will determine our future. And I know I follow geopolitics closely, and I know that there is a agenda out there towards compliance and control that is espoused by, amongst others, Davos to start off with, that are pursuing the One World Order agenda, and now call it the Great Reset and things like that. And if we are going to allow ourselves to be sucked into that, then there's no turning back. And it's a critical juncture at which we are right now as humanity, as society. And if we don't stand up and be counted and do what needs to be done for ourselves, then at the end of the day, it's going to be a question of us just becoming robots and automations, with all the plans that they have for humanity, including, and which is something that doesn't sit very well with me, is that reduction of population, which I'm very much against. I believe that there is a God out there. We have lost our divine connection with him, and this is why the world is in such turmoil. And the people that led us to this status quo right now are now suddenly wanting us to believe that they are very benevolent, that they're going to care for us, and everything they put out in the mainstream media is saying that it's going to be such a wonderful world. But I really don't believe them. I don't trust them. And this is why it is up to us to do what we have to do to stay sane and make sure that society lives. Because I'm not going to be a genetically modified robot of some sort with the so-called vaccines and things like that. I'm sorry, I'm not going down that road. And I'm older now. I'm 70 years old. So I've seen a lot of life. And even if I drop dead tomorrow, well, so be it. But I will not subscribe to what they are pushing.
Thank you very much for your intervention. I had a question for you, Inge. You mentioned that as a mother, you feel like work-life family balance is very important. And well, I strongly believe. But how do you think your leadership as a woman, because you remain in a world that is quite masculine. Like as a woman, how do you think your leadership can bring something different in another way of being a leader that is less focused on power on the people, but maybe power with the people? How do you think maybe your role as a woman can help us learn from that?
First of all, by showing, by doing the things I think are better. A couple of years ago, I started a project to bring chess to primary school children, because chess is a game that learns children not only the technical part of chess, but learns children to wanting to win, but to think ahead. So all things I think we need in our society. And then what happened was that some schools picked it up, and then we were able to match retired people who know how to play chess and bring them to schools during lunchtime and after 3:30 to play with these children. And there my idea rose to, why can't we link retired people who all have knowledge and things they can do to share them with primary school children, because children need time, they need attention, they need patience in order to gain self-confidence, because that's what you need to bring them to the work floor. But that's exactly what the parents at the age of 35 or 40 don't have, because they have a full-time job, they need to commute. So why can't we just share, let's say, grandparents with schools, and this way solve a huge problem for the working people that we need on the work floor? Because in Europe, we have a society that's quite old. We have very, very few young people. We have a war of talent because they don't exist. So we need to solve it. We need to bring people together in order to solve the problems, not put it on the schools, not ask them to work harder and more. But there are so many also people in isolation, people whose children live more than an hour or abroad. Why can't we start sharing kids with grandparents and solve certain problems that would help working people? And that's what I want to do. I want to show that we can do it different in a win-win-win. The children get the patience they need, the parents get the hours they need to work and do a good job, and the retired people get social contacts through children. So I do think there's a lot of things that we can change. In Antwerp, we also made a group of entrepreneurs, and we all dedicated 1 week during the summer holidays to help summer schools teach children for free. Just really to be there to help them out in English, in math, in anything that we can contribute. But I think every business executive, every entrepreneur has something to tell the children, whatever it is. So that's what I want to do. Show that we are, we cannot put the elderly in elderly homes and the kids in schools and then be in between and work hard and gain the money to pay for a nanny. It's not working like that. It's a global world. We need to solve this and work all together to come to a solution. And I think there's so many solutions we don't need the politicians for.
Well
Thank you
said,
very much.
Inge.
So,
well said.
You're very well said. We have 2 minutes to close, so maybe if you would like to each conclude the debate of today in 1 minute, maybe.
All right, I'll go first. Inge, Inge went first. Look, I share the sentiments expressed by Inge, and I believe that even in our society, there is no such thing as an old age retirement home. You only do that if you really don't love or care for your parents. That's the only time that you'll put them there. With us, it's a cycle of life. I'm the grandfather right now. I've got grandchildren that I can engender with all the values, the thinking, the morals, the experience that I have, and of course, more importantly, the time with which to do it. Their parents can go out and climb the ladder of corporate or other success and do whatever they want. I don't have a problem with that. But if we don't ground our people, what happens to them? They are stuck in front of the TV, they are on their phones, on their devices, and suddenly you've lost them. And even if, as Inge said, you get a nanny and you're working yourself flat out, 2 jobs maybe, whose child is that anyway? It's your child, and then she adopts all the traits and the nuances and the behavior patterns of that nanny. Is that what we want in our lives? Certainly not. So I'm all for it. I says use the elder people. It's that cycle of life that mustn't be breaking. And this is what the politicians of today want to do. They want to destroy that family unit. And I will not allow that, not in my area. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, because I'm often asked in debates, because I'm a woman in tech, which is very unusual. So indeed, I am a woman. Can't help it. It was born like that. But I'm a parent. I'm a daughter, so I want to take care of that. But I'm also an entrepreneur with a company, so I also want to be successful and don't want to go bankrupt. So I need to balance those. So I see huge opportunities after COVID to increase the quality of life for all of us. And maybe we needed COVID to really realize we cannot wait for politicians to change, but we need to do it.
Indeed.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ebrahim. We're very happy we didn't have electricity cuts.
Yeah.
We
I'm
heard
just
you all
waiting in anticipation, and they give it that euphemism, load shedding, to make it sound bearable as such, but really it's a disaster here, unfortunately.
So, but we were lucky this time.
Yes,
thank you very much for your very interesting testimony, and I wish you a very good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.